guys. So we have been learning about weathering and erosion. You got to meet Agent Weathering, and you know that his or her superpowers are breaking down rocks, and that Agent Erosion is the sidekick, and he picks up, carries, and moves those rocks and puts those in a new location. So now we know that those two things work together to change the way that our world looks. Have you ever thought about why we have sand at the beach? Where does that sand come from? Was it just there? So, why do we have sand at the beach? So, we're going to take a little bit of time today and we're going to discuss that question with a little help from Mystery Science and our friend Doug. So, let's go settle in and watch a little bit of information about why we have sand on beaches.
Hi, it's Doug. Have you been to a beach before? If you've ever been to the ocean, then you've seen a beach. People of all ages love beaches. Some people like to lay in the sand and the warm sun. Some people, like myself, love to build sandcastles. Now, I don't know how much you've thought about beaches, but it's kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, very few places on Earth have so much sand like this. As soon as you walk away from a beach, there's not sand there. It's usually grassy or there's trees. Why is there sand at the beach? That's the mystery we're going to explore today. Why do beaches have sand? Now, this is not an easy mystery to solve.
Nope.
So, to help you out a little, let me tell you about a very special beach.
A really cool beach.
This beach, called Pfeiffer Beach, and it's located in central California, along the Pacific Ocean. It's about 4 hours away from where I live. Do you notice anything strange about Pfeiffer Beach? Look around. Do you see anything? Now, you might notice that at Pfeiffer Beach, there's something special about the sand. It's purple. Pfeiffer Beach is a purple sand beach. That is truly strange. Most sand is tan or brownish in color. Why do you think the sand here is purple? Where would purple sand come from?
So I want you to think about that. Why in the world would this specific beach have purple sand? Why would Pfeiffer Beach have purple sand? Do you have any predictions? If so, kind of put those in your brain, and when we come back to them later, you can be like, oh, I was right, or I was wrong, which is okay to be wrong because they're just predictions. And then the next thing I want you to think about too is imagine if you were at the Pfeiffer Beach. How could you look for clues to help you solve the mystery of where the purple sand came from? Where would you look around? Would you look up in the sky? Would you look over at the mountains? Would you look under the water? Where do you think that you would look?
So how could we figure out where the purple sand comes from? Or really where any sand comes from, even the more common tan-colored sand? Well, what would be nice is if we could look at some sand close up, like under a magnifying lens, or even under a microscope. So let's do that. Let's get a little closer look. Here we go, it's closer. But let's get even more close. Whoa, now we're really zoomed in. When you look at sand under a microscope, like you're seeing here, what do you notice? Well, you can see that sand is actually made of tiny rocks. The one you've been looking at here is more of the common sand, tan-colored sand. And you can see that there's tan-colored rocks there. But there are different colored sands. There's such a thing as green sand. Green sand is made of tiny green rocks. Purple sand, like you saw earlier,
tiny purple rocks.
Well, you can see up close, it's made of tiny purple rocks. Where could tiny purple rocks have come from? If you looked all around this beach, you'd see that there are some cliffs nearby.
Wow, those are pretty.
One idea you might have had is maybe the ocean waves sometimes crash against the cliffs and make that sand. But if you go look up close at the cliffs, you'll notice that the rocks of the cliffs aren't the same color as the tiny rocks the sand is made of. The rocks of the cliffs aren't purple, so it's probably not that. Could the sand come from out in the ocean itself? That's a good idea, but a scuba diver went out into the ocean and found that the only purple sand was the sand near the beach. There were no purple rocks in the ocean out there, just very fine white sand and brown rocks.
Weird.
So where could that purple sand have come from? Where is some place that has purple rocks? For many years, no one knew. But one day, a hiker found rocks like these some distance away in some nearby mountains.
Wow.
Notice that the rocks look purple. Their color does look just like the color of the sand. Now on the mountain, there's a sign that tells people to be careful of falling rocks. When it rains, rocks often tumble down mountains and bang into the side of the mountain as they do. Could it be that these purple rocks on the mountain have something to do with the purple sand at Pfeiffer Beach? But if they did, that would mean that somehow the rocks on this mountain are being broken into tiny pieces and then being moved many miles all the way to the beach. What could do that?
So, based on what we've talked about, what could do that? If you're thinking agent weathering and agent erosion working together in the process of weathering, breaking down the rocks, using the help of Mother Nature with wind and water, and then erosion picking up from where, weathering left off and picking up and moving those tiny purple rocks to a new location over to the beach. You might just be right.
If you explore around the mountain to look for clues, you can notice something. All those purple rocks that tumble down the mountainside, they're tumbling into a river that starts at this mountain.
Mother Nature!
Oh, yeah, you know something about rivers, don't you? Rivers start in high places, like mountains, and they flow downwards towards low places, usually the ocean. Could it be that somehow these purple rocks tumble into the river by the mountain, and the river carries them all the way to the ocean? But these rocks are big. They're the size of someone's hand or bigger.
That's not sand.
Even if these rocks got all the way to the beach, sand is really tiny rocks, not big ones. Well, there's another clue. If you look carefully at where a river starts, up in the mountains, you can notice that up here in the mountains, the river water is flowing very quickly. It's fast. The flow is so strong up here that rocks that tumble into it get pushed and carried by the water.
Erosion.
There are lots of other rocks in the river too, and so they crash into each other. Remember what happens when a rock crashes hard into something?
Breaks apart.
Could this explain how there's sand at the beach? Why or why not?
Come on, buddy, start.
So why is there sand at the beach? Well, now you've seen all the clues, and it makes sense. Whether it's a purple sand beach or a normal tan-colored sand beach, the same thing happens. A river starts up in the mountains. Because mountains are steep, the water flows fast and has lots of energy. It moves like a sphere coming down the mountain. The water is strong enough to carry rocks down from the mountain. The rocks crash into each other along the way, breaking up and creating smaller and smaller bits each time they crash. That's what sand is. Tiny bits of rock that have been carried to the end of the river. Now some of that sand goes into the ocean, but some of it, the ocean waves push up along the shore, creating beaches. That's why there are beaches. Now, it might have surprised you that the flow of water can be so powerful
It breaks
that it
down
can
rocks.
move rocks and slam them into each other, creating sand. This power that water has, this ability to actually move rocks and sand and carry them somewhere, we give this its own name, erosion. We'll see other examples of erosion in future mysteries. Now, I mentioned that there are different colored beaches because there are rocks of different colors that the sand comes from. There's green rocks, there's blue rocks, there's purple rocks. But many rocks are tan or light brown, so beach sand tends to be the same color.
So it's kind of interesting to think about why we have sand at beaches. We go to the beach and we enjoy ourselves, we play in the water, but you usually don't think, hey, what is this sand really made of? But it's really just broken down rocks from the surrounding area. Now, I want you to think about it. Have you ever been to the gorge, Red River Gorge? A lot of you have been to Red River Gorge before. And I've gone before and I've been walking through trails and I've seen sand. And you might think, I'm not at a beach. Why is there sand here? Well, there's all kinds of rocks at Red River Gorge. And over time, with the wind and the water and the foot traffic, some of those rocks get broken down into tiny little pieces. And you might even see sand somewhere as far away from the beach as Red River Gorge. So your Google Classroom question today is head over there. Is there sand at the beach? Alrighty, guys, good luck, have fun, and I will see you later.